Hello, and welcome to the 2021 school year curriculum updates folder. Today, I will be walking you through the math curriculum folders. You will have a link that looks like this, K5 curriculum pacing, and inside that is housed all the different grades. Third, fourth, and fifth grade all have the identical folders within their grade, just with grade level appropriate material. So I will just walk you through one grade. I'll pick fourth grade, math. And inside the math folder are 8 folders. And we will just start with number 1. This holds the curriculum maps, pacing, and a couple of other important documents. This is the Jumpstart plan that was shared with you in May to kind of help with remediation and filling in some gaps from the previous year. This is all the U-Cube tasks, which will be referred to in the curriculum maps, along with the standards that they are matched with. And this is the pacing guide, which just has a one-pager for each 9 weeks of the standards being taught that week. It looks very similar to what we had last year. The power standards remain the same because we didn't have a test last year, and everything else about it is similar except for the order in which things are being taught this year. The bulk of our time will be spent inside the curriculum map today. I'm going to go through the components of this. In the past, we had standards-based maps, and we had 7 separate ones for each unit. This year, we will have one curriculum map that will just flow from the first lesson to the last lesson in Ready. These are based around the Ready lessons. So I'm going to go through one of these, lesson 1 for fourth grade, first 9 weeks. And this is the standard, the learning targets or I can statements that go with that standard, vocabulary, fluency, and manipulative suggestions. This is your adopted textbook, assessment options, and additional resources. So let's kind of dig a little deeper into a couple of these components. The adopted textbook this year is Ready. You will have a teacher manual, but you also have access to it digitally. So I'll show you what that looks like. Each lesson is linked in the curriculum map, and this is lesson 1, and these are all the components within lesson 1. There are videos, is the student and the teacher resources, which you will have hard copies of. This is a consumable workbook for the students, and prerequisite skills, which this year we may be using more than past years. This is a copy of the practice and problem solving book, which each student will have a consumable copy of that. The lesson quiz, some background knowledge, and centers that you may choose to use. This section has assessment options. This is a link to the quiz. The other thing that you can do instead of the quiz is use the standards mastery in iReady. That will need to be assigned by an administrator at your building, or you can choose to use any other check for understanding that you choose to do. Let me scroll a little bit just to let you see. We're flowing through the lessons, lesson 1, 2, 3, 4, and for this particular unit, there's only 4 lessons, so there's an end of unit assessment, or at this point you may want to use a teacher-made CFA that goes with the standards in those lessons. At the end of each unit, there's also a math and action plan, and these are like PBAs or kind of some problem-based activities that the kids will participate in at the end of each unit. Some of the longer units have a mid-unit assessment as well, which you can use the mid-unit assessment from Ready Math, or you can use a teacher-made CFA. Now, within the Ready, there are lessons, and then within each lesson there are days. Each day is a 45-minute or so lesson. So there are 160 165 to 170 days of lessons within Ready Math. And so we will need to condense some of those. At the top of each 9 weeks, there are some pacing guidance. First 9 weeks, there's 42 days in the calendar. We're going to have 5 days for the first week and not dig into Ready. So that leaves us 37 days for the first 9 weeks to teach. The Ready lessons are 32 to 42 days. So if you didn't combine any lessons at all, there would be 42 days of lessons. And if we combined all the highlighted lessons, it would be 32. So within your PLCs, you will want to kind of look ahead and look at the lessons, especially as we get moving. You'll be able to do this probably a little better. But we did have some teacher teams go through and say which days could be combined. For instance, day 2 and 3, you could teach in one day. A lot of times this last day within the lesson is just an independent practice day. And so you could teach day 2 and then bring the independent lessons from day 3 as your center work after you completed day 2. So that's one way to combine and condense some of these lessons. So as you scroll through, you can kind of see there are places for suggestions. These are just suggestions. Your PLCs will make the final decision about what lessons to combine and what not to combine. And some of that will also be based on how your kids are doing in the class and things like that. So these are just suggestions, but some teachers did look at these. The next section within the curriculum document is the additional resources. In the past, we've had standards-based maps, so we had just tons and tons and tons of resources. And this year, we're sort of narrowing our focus, teaching the Ready, but have a few resources for the extra time that we do have in class. This is the Engage New York, and this is North Carolina. Engage New York is the same thing as Eureka. And in the past, we've just had the Eureka modules, and you just had to flip through and flip through. Well, there is a website for each standard. So I have linked that, and these are the lessons and activities within Eureka or Engage New York, same thing, that is based on that standard. On top of that, we have this website linked, and a lot of work was put into this. I think this is a great resource. It's very standards-based. This was some grant work done in the state of North Carolina. So I will click on just one of the clusters. Within this, they've clustered standards together, but there's activities that are based just on this one standard. So I could go here to OA1. I can pull this document up, and it is just a 1-part or 2-part question or scenario based on that standard with some student samples to kind of guide in knowing whether your kids are on track with that standard. Over here in the additional resources, there's lots of great things. We began talking about number talks last year, and so this is a resource for number talks to kind of help guide number talks based on these standards. There are additional resources, which are good, and they also have some CFAs and exit tickets. Let me go to this next page. That are based on these standards. This would be a great place to go if you just need to pull some extra questions, or if you're a 4th grade teacher and you need to back up and do some 3rd grade activities, this is a great place to kind of come and find some standard-based activities. The last component is the growth mindset tasks. Now, where appropriate, links have been added for these tasks. These are open-ended activities that can be done in the classroom that really kind of make your kids think and things like that. These that are hyperlinked go to UCubed. So I'll just click on one of these and we'll go over there. UCubed has tons of great things in here if you're ever just looking for some ways to learn a little bit about mathematics. I'll click on this penny collection. This is just one example. It's a great task. I've done this actually with some students. Here's a link to a growth mindset message, how to implement this activity, what you give the kids. You could just screenshot that and put that in Canvas. a hundreds chart for them to kind of mark off, because they're going to be using division to figure out how many coins this particular person has. It's a great little activity. Also, within this are some resources to this Mindset Mathematics by Joe Bowler. Each school building will have these books purchased. There'll be one per grade level. And these activities are based on the standards that are in that book. And these are some just great things. You can just copy them and implement some of these growth mindset tasks, which would be great. Let's go back to our main page. Mde Resources. These are the same resources we have had, just maybe organized a little bit better. As soon as you come into this folder, you'll see the scaffolding document and the blueprint. Within this folder are the Mississippi assessments, item sampler, testlet, and practice test. Exemplar lessons that the state has released with some resources that go with those. And just other things that the state has released that are good resources, manipulatives, unpacking some standards, things like that. This Bellringer folder has bell ringers that were teacher created a couple years ago based on our units. I renamed them with the standards that are within that unit. So within this particular document, we'll have these standards, G1 through G3, and some MD standards. And there's just sort of, anywhere from 5 to 20 pages of questions. This would be a great place if you're a 5th grade teacher to come down and grab some questions for 4th grade if you want to incorporate these in bell ringers to kind of bridge the gap for things that may be a little weak from the previous year due to our school closures. PBAs, this is the same folder we had last year. Power PBAs, this is where PBAs that are based on the standards that our PBA for the MAPE test assess. And then in here are just other PBAs with others from other standards, which these are great to do in class and really make kids think. Websites. This is just a list of websites. Instead of having a folder for all of these, will be a working document, a living document, so to speak, that things will be added as the year goes as we find websites that are helpful and useful in teaching mathematics. Fluency, this folder is the same as last year. We have Fluency Games. These are great activities that kind of don't cause as much anxiety as like a timed test, so to speak. And this is a article, Fluency Without Fear, that talks about math anxiety and ways to maybe help with fluency without, hindering students. This is an older folder that houses some documents that had ways to just practice fluency. So these are just some resources for that. Assessments. All the assessments that we had, I put into one folder. So Achieve the Core has some great assessments. These are our past Case 21 tests from the last 2 years that we use those. The ELS assessments from last year. Some North Carolina tasks and release tests from other states. This TCAP is probably the most closely aligned with what our students will see. It is written by Questar for Tennessee, and it's a good place to go. And last but not least, we have an Arts Integration folder. This folder contains all the art standards. So if you create your own arts integrated lesson and you know what the math standard is, but you need to know what the art standard is, those are the most current art standards. Arts integration by standard, some teachers did some work, and within this document and this document is just some guidance based on standards, where you are in the year with arts integrated lessons. This also is a great resource for some different places to go to get some ideas about some arts integrated lessons. And lastly is the education closet lessons. Kit Stafford has spearheaded a lot of arts integration for us this year and has gotten this for all the 3-5 schools. These are the 4th grade math lessons within Education Closet. I'll just open one of these up. And within this is the teaching plan for the teacher and any documents that the students might need, a rubric on how to score that, and things like that. It's a great resource. And then with each lesson is also a PowerPoint that you would show as you worked through the lesson. Essential questions, what to think about. So then they're going to have a little activity or some sort of art that they might produce, along with this one is X and Y axis and some measurements, so things like that. And that concludes our very quick sort of look at the curriculum documents for this year. I'm Celeste Ellis, and I'm here if you need me. I'm at Lawndale, but I'm available to anybody that needs any help. My email is crellis@tupeloschools.com. Thank you.